Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we had Fred Simon, a gubernatorial candidate for this great state of Nevada. But before we get to Mr. Simon, Jim, do you have anything?
No, actually, I don't.
Why are you laughing? This is not funny.
I don't.
This is a Nevada gubernatorial race.
No,
it's not a joke, Jim.
No,
Square yourself away, son.
No, when I get tired, I laugh.
Oh,
Yeah. No, okay. I don't really have anything. Today's been a good day.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't. Actually, the reason why I haven't been doing many rants or anything lately is just,
It's been good days.
yeah, they've been good days, and I really want to spend more time
With family and friends.
talking to all these candidates. All what 6?
You know what's so funny is when these elected officials get their hands caught in a cookie jar.
Right.
And then they say, you better resign or we're going to expose you.
Yeah.
They come on the air and go, we're resigning because of family and family issues. And we all know it's a bunch of BS.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. That's typically the way it happens.
And the last county commissioner did that was Chip Maxfield, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Good old Chip Maxfield.
But before we get to Mr. Simon, I just want to remind everybody that since Mr. Simon is running for governor, I want to remind everybody that on April 2nd at the Ahern, I believe around 10:30, we're going to be interviewing candidates running for governor. So if you have not RSVP'd and you're a candidate, you're going to miss out. Reason being, it's live stream, and we're going to make sure that it hits Northern Nevada as well. Make sure we're going to get as many people watching this thing. And remember something, if you're a candidate and you don't participate, that means you will not get endorsed by our organization. Just to let you know, you will not get endorsed by our organization. Okay? So there you have it. So now we're going to get to Mr. Fred Simon. Could you tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Simon? Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun.
All righty. Let's get right to it. Who are you?
I'm Dr. Fred Simon. I'm a medical doctor. I grew up...
Are you a real doctor?
Well,
A real medical doctor?
define a medical doctor.
A medical doctor, well, a doctor is somebody a physician, in my opinion, is somebody that could prescribe medicine.
Okay, I'm one of those.
Okay, beautiful.
Graduated.
There's a lot of people that throw around doctor, but they're not.
Sure.
But they confuse the public because a normal person would think that if you're a doctor in front of your name, that means you could prescribe medicine. They don't know that some people say doctor, but they can't really prescribe medicine.
Doctor, give me the news.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got my degree in 1981 from the great school of Creighton University, a Jesuit school in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
And I was brought up by two people of the greatest generation. My dad was enlisted in the Navy when he was 17.
Beautiful.
He was on a minesweeper,
Oh, that's
small
a
little
dangerous
boat.
job.
You come in my restaurant, and you walk in. I have a restaurant up in Minden.
How do we get from the boat to the restaurant?
Well, I got to talk about my dad. I mean, he's my dad and my mother have the ultimate of influence on me.
Okay.
So if you walk in there, here's his log of all of his Navy compatriots from Detroit. And I have the original thing, and it sits up there, and you can just see the methodical printing of everybody's name
Right.
and who it is and the date and where they're from. This has a little bit to do with me. And then you sit there and you see the USS Velocity, which he was on.
Okay.
And he saved all of this, and he gave it to me, and it sits there as you walk in. And so he got out of the Navy, met my mom, and my mom during World War II was one of the greatest of volunteers. She volunteered doing everything.
Okay.
Sweet woman.
What's mom's name?
It was Ruth. And Ruth
Dad's
was a
name?
farm girl. Fred.
Fred. Oh,
Yeah.
go figure.
Yeah, go figure. I'm junior. And My mother came from a small farm in Middleton, Michigan.
Okay.
My dad grew up as the 11th child, and both his parents died at 13.
Oh, wow.
And he passed from brother, sister, brother, sister. He was the 11th. He was the baby. So he went off. He came back.
How old was the eldest
Oh, boy.
at the time of your grandfather's passing?
Don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
I went back a year. In fact, when I finished my residency, which was surgery and trauma.
You've seen a lot then, huh?
Yeah, I've seen a lot. Yeah, I trained the Balboa Naval Hospital residents who went to Iraq,
You got steady
Afghanistan.
hands?
I still do at 69. I'm still at the top of my game in the OR.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I would say I really haven't lost a step. I was still, my associates that I was with for years still call me on a clinical basis. I'm probably a better clinician than I am a surgeon.
I have the most respect for healers, whether it's physical or mental.
Well, you know, it's been a fascinating life, but my parents set it up. So, you know, my dad gave me a lawnmower and a shovel at 10 and a half years old and said, you're not entitled. You will be empowered. You're going to learn how to work. And my mom taught me, you know, a little bit about the heart. And by the time I was 15 years old, I was pushing wheelchairs in a hospital where my dad was friends with the orthopedic surgeon, senior guy, and the administrator of the hospital. So, you know, it's who you know.
It's who you know.
Had nothing to do about me, man. I'm a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
But I remember the first time I was pushing a wheelchair, I'm pushing Miss Root. I'll never forget it. She is got about 40% burns, older lady, going to the Hubbard tank. And my eyes are as big as can be, and I had to put her in the Hubbard tank. And I'll tell you, back then when you're treating burns, you're putting people in this tank, and they all cry, and it's painful. And I'm going, ooh, this is what I got into. And then the next summer I was doing as an x-ray tech in the dark room. It wasn't computer. And then I got an opportunity to be in the operating room. So I've been in the operating room for 51 years. And still am. But my dad gave me an incredible work ethic. He was very demanding, maybe a little harsh at times, whatever. That was his generation. I mean, he didn't have parents at 13. He had to go to the Navy. He had to grow up in the Navy.
Right.
He had to find his own way. He was a bus driver first, and then he worked in a department store, and he worked his way up. He worked hard and did well. And that's what he expected out of me and my sister. My sister became a special ed teacher, then a principal.
Okay.
A very Christian conservative woman. And by the time I started getting involved in the hospital, I knew once I got in the operating room, that's what I wanted to do. I was going to be a surgeon. So we'll get down the road here and then.
How much schooling was that?
Well, it's 4 years of college, and I also went to grad school for a year and 4 years of medical school. And then I did 5 years of residency. And then I volunteered on the Navajo Indian Reservation.
Oh, beautiful.
When I got done, I said, you know what? That's Mom. Go serve. Do something. And that was fascinating. I've always been into fascinating things. I've practiced in 11 states, the Indian Reservation, been in 50 hospitals, 31 communities in my career.
Let me stop you right there. In the Indian Reservation, are they more into the spiritual type of healing than the actual domestic type?
Well, that's fascinating because there are medicine men on the res.
Yeah.
Well, you go on the res, you're in a different country. Okay? Their own police force, their own government. It's public health service, but it's Indian public health service.
Don't they vote?
Yes.
They vote.
They vote.
Yeah.
They are American citizens on their own land with their own government. No alcohol on the res, but if you went an eighth of a mile off the res.
Right there.
Well,
It's like Church's Chicken in the black neighborhood.
Bingo. There were two. It's true, because I worked in the black neighborhood when I was and I ate at Church's Chicken. So, and it's good chicken.
It is. But
It is
so
good.
greasy, gonna give you a heart attack.
Well, that's why I liked it. It's greasy, man. It's the best.
Aren't you a surgeon? Aren't you supposed to say drink some Ensure or something? Eat a vegetable?
I'm not a nutritionist.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'm not a
Okay.
nutritionist.
A chance to cut is a chance to cure. Okay?
A chance to cut
Is
is
a
a chance
chance
to
to
cure.
See,
We need to get that shirt. We're going to take that.
see, when I do something, I cure somebody,
Right.
except dealing with cancer and things like that. But most of the time,
Right.
I'm fixing something acutely.
Right.
So anyway, on the res, there's two important buildings.
Okay.
The hospital,
Right.
the post office.
Okay.
Off the res, there was a very important building for them, the liquor store.
Ah.
Every
the best medicine yet, right?
Every other Friday, there was a big line to the post office, and there was a big line. Okay, so there's
Is
a
there
huge alcohol burn.
dispensary next to it now, since a lot of these states have.
Steve, I haven't been out there in a long time, but all I can tell you is the route that I used to run. I was a marathon runner for years.
Okay.
It was a perfect route to run. It was up and down
I know
hills.
why you ran.
Why did I run?
Stress helps you probably in when you're doing surgery.
And energy, endorphins, man.
Yes.
I'm big into endorphins.
Yes. You kind of like a release, right?
Yeah, it's a release, and then it's this inner power you get with
Yes.
endorphins.
Yes.
But I was running Route 666. Now they've changed it.
That's the devil's sign.
That's the devil's sign, if people didn't know. But anyway, that was a wonderful experience. So I'll tell you, the medicine men would come in
Right.
before I do a gallbladder. Okay?
Oh boy.
We did 6 to 8 gallbladders a month. I mean a week. A week. 95% of Native American Navajos and Hopis get gallbladder disease. So the medicine man would come in. He'd suck on the right upper quadrant where the gallbladder is. And miraculously, every time, he'd pull out stones and he'd show them to the patient.
Oh wow.
And they paid for that.
Oh wow.
And then I took them to the OR and took their gallbladder out with the stones that I found in their gallbladder.
Oh wow. I had a very good friend at one time. Her name is Jasmine Brooks, who was a surgeon, and she was telling me how when they heart attacks, when they break the ribs to get to the heart, she actually massages the heart with her hand. Mm-hmm. You do something like that?
Well, sure. You know what? I was a trauma surgeon. I ran a major trauma center. Mm-hmm. You get gunshot wounds to the heart. I sit there and have an electric saw. Okay? You come in, they're bleeding. You put a tube down. This happens in about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That fast?
I ran most of my traumas that came in, major traumas, take me 6 to 8 minutes to run my drill.
And you
And initiate.
saw the rib cage.
Saw right up the sternum.
Yeah, it's
You
kind of-
put in a
it's kind
retractor.
of a word it's off.
The retractor's like this. You put the retractor in, you pull it out.
Vice grip.
Yeah, vice grip on each side. And then you crank it open, you find the hole, and you put your finger over it to start with. Control the bleeding. Now you try and sew it, if you can. But you got a pumping heart. It's not that easy.
But blood everywhere.
Yeah, I've had gallons and gallons of blood on me over the years. Yeah, but that's the name of the game. But
Aren't you worried with all these HIV
You know,
and all that?
you know what? I volunteered in a COVID ICU in March of 2020. Unvaccinated. Family wasn't happy about it. I had to know. I'm just one of those people.
No.
So was I worried? What am I worried about? This is what I do. Okay?
You must be well off being a surgeon.
Well, I'm well off because I worked about 100 to 110 hours for 27 years. I did the most call of anybody in my specialty.
Why you want to run for governor, Mr. Simon?
Well,
And how could you take your years in the hospital surgery room and bring that to the governor's mansion?
Well, I grew up in a business family. I've had 4 small businesses.
Okay.
I owned a semi-professional soccer team up in Reno.
Really?
I had an ESPN radio show for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
I went in and sold it to the general manager. I'm a multidisciplinary guy. I am a medical expert, small business guy.
Okay.
I've done over 900 medical legal cases over the past 30 years. I'm a medical legal expert. I have a deposition tomorrow morning. I have done a whole lot of different things. Let's look at what the governor's position is. It's an executive leadership position. Okay. So there's two things to it. You have to deal with executive decisions, and you have to be a leader. And we're not born to be leaders. Nobody.
A surgeon deals with life or death.
That's correct. Okay. What a trauma surgeon, or there's a difference from a general surgeon, which I do a lot of general surgery. Most of the general surgery cases I do are not life and death. They can be put off for hours. Trauma is immediate, instant judgment, intervention, and then intervention and then follow-up.
So you had to make calls.
Sure. You're making
life or death calls all the time, right?
That's why doctors who go to the war field come to places like mine. And I did the medics too. We brought the medics in to upstage and upraise them. You got to learn how to understand a fundamental base of knowledge to start with. You can't go looking in a book when you got somebody bleeding to death. And you get multi-complex traumas. You get somebody who comes in with a fractured leg, a head injury, and a ruptured spleen. Now, what do you do first? How do you intervene? They could die from this. They're certainly going to die from this.
They could go in shock.
Sure. And if they go in shock, it makes their head injury worse because you got to perfuse the brain. So first of all, you have to have a very good, solid, fundamental knowledge. Here's the bottom line. You better be a cognitive human being and not emotional. It's a cognitive game. I don't shoot them. I don't stab them. I don't drive drunk into a tree. I just fix them. And that was the attitude. You get Simonized as my resident. Simonized.
Oh, boy.
You learn how to wax on and wax off, and you do it my way.
Hey, Mr. Yagi.
Yeah, Mr. Yagi. So it's a job of, and then don't forget, you've got a ER physician, a lab person, you've got an X-ray technician, you got 2 nurses, you got somebody recording this. You have to run that team.
Don't forget the anesthesiologists.
They're not there.
Where are they?
They're waiting for us in the OR if we're coming.
Yeah.
I can take care of the airway. I can intubate patients and put them on drugs. Michael Jackson drugs.
Oh, boy.
That's what we use, propofol.
Oh, boy.
That's what we use in the trauma room.
You know, before Jim asks this question, because I just want to stick to the topic, the pain drugs that they're giving our veterans, the Oxycontin, and all that. Do you recommend that, or do you recommend maybe medicinal marijuana or cannabis to deal with the pain, other than this addictive Oxycontin that they're putting veterans on?
Well, there's quite a story to this, and I'll make it very 30 seconds. The United States government, and I have a letter from the Surgeon General. The American government came out and told physicians, if you don't give medication to people and people have pain, you could lose your license, you could lose your DEA. Okay? They caused this. And this was, 25 years ago. Now we go down the line. I got this letter probably about 8 years ago. It was kind of a semi-apology. We need to back off doing these drugs. Okay? I'm out of the box. I'm an out of the box guy altogether, but when it came to medicine, 80% plus of my patients who I operated on, when they got discharged from the hospital, did not go out on narcotics. They went out on a combination of ibuprofen and Tylenol.
Oh, wow. That's
80%.
That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference, okay? Here's the other thing is physicians write too many narcotics in their script. Patients need to feel their anxieties taken away. Another little thing I did, every single patient, Steve, that I operated on in the last 20 years got my private cell phone number. So if I operated on you for a gallbladder, you and I to have this little discussion, you're not getting narcotics, you don't have as much pain as you have, and you have as much pain as you should have.
But do you recommend marijuana for it?
Not for every patient, for chronic pain. Chronic pain. I don't recommend marijuana for acute pain.
Okay. Why is that?
It's
an overkill? Or?
It's an overkill.
Okay.
You know, life is kind of a psychological game. So as a physician, yeah, I was a surgeon intervening with people. The most important thing for me to do was have a connection with you on a personal relationship. And develop that personal relationship quickly so you trusted me. And I developed such a good personal relationship. I give them my cell phone number. I sit there and tell them about their pain. We talk about the narcotics and the risk. And I said, you'll deal with your pain. You have problems, you call me. We'll walk them through it. I did this for years.
And it works. In this state, is there state hospitals here, or is all the hospitals private?
Well,
except for UMC, which is
which is the trauma center down here in Vegas. I mean, Sunrise is independent. Well, they're systems now. This is a huge problem. 65% of physicians now work for government, hospitals, and insurance companies. They're going to a single payer system, which is going. There's an evil relationship, in my opinion, between government and hospitals. Running out independent docs. There's no doctors in Urington. There's no doctors in Fernley. There's no doctors in Hawthorne. There's a nurse practitioner.
So as governor, what could you do to bring medical care to these rural areas?
Well, that's one of the big issues on the plate for anybody running for governor.
I haven't heard anybody talk about it.
Well, they're not going to talk about it because I don't think they know what the heck to do about it.
You know what to do, right?
Sure.
Well, what would you do?
Well, I had some of the world experts, anti-vaccine people, Peter McCullough. I had Heather Gessling. Heather Gessling's a friend of mine from Missouri who knows how to put independent doctors back in, and I know how to do this too, through the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, which I belong to. Rand Paul belongs to that group. We're 6,000 independent docs. We don't believe, one, the government should be in healthcare. There's nothing in the Constitution that gives the government the right to participate in healthcare and education, period. There's nothing in the state constitution. So when we look at this...
Now, how could you get them out?
Well, first of all, what we do is we have to compete with now systems. This is so nefarious what's happened. If you look at where the healthcare dollars go, this is the industrial healthcare complex, same as the military industrial complex. So what's the number one lobby group in the world? Biopharma.
Yeah.
They want you to take the oxycodone.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. And they want these generic drugs to run out. And then while you're watching the Super Bowl, hey, you need this drug, but you can have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, and death, but it's a little better for you. Forget the generic that costs $10.
You've been a practicing physician for what, 40 years. 40 years.
Yeah, 81 is when I became a doctor. So it's, I'm in my 42nd year.
So is there truth to rumors that are going around saying that there is a cure for cancer, but the pharmaceuticals don't want that to be known?
I wouldn't go there. I mean, here's the drive for cancer, the research and the money that goes there, I think is genuine. There's a lot of disingenuous stuff. The pharmaceutical companies make a lot of their money by disreputation of drugs that have worked for a long time because now they're generic and they're trying to sell drugs now through the pipeline, why don't they want ivermectin? Why don't they want hydroxychloroquine? Ivermectin costs about 1/3 of a penny for one dose. There's been 4 billion doses given over the course of the world. They want you to take something else. So Pfizer comes out with this new pill that will help you with COVID. But the government paid $5 billion for it. You paid for that. You paid for that. I paid for that. It's a scam. So I won't put up with it in my own practice, and I won't put it up with it as far as governor, and they won't like it. But I'm going to put independent docs all around the state, which means you're going to have, for instance, and this is how I'm going to do it. So John Gary, mayor of Yerington, I've met with him twice. Got any empty buildings? Yup. Why? Well, because of COVID and the governor's mandates, and it's not all his fault. Okay. People in this race keep banging on Sisolak, 3.5 years Sisolak. He didn't cause the education problem. It's been there for decades, and you've got multiple candidates running who've been in the legislature, senator, mayor, one that changed who was a city council person. Oh, we're running for governor. Now education's an issue. My wife and I have been in it for 20 years. She was on the school board for 8 years, president 3. We've been through the whole thing. But when we get back to healthcare and look at this, okay?
What's her name?
Maria.
Simon says.
Correct. So I go to John Gary and I said, do you have an empty building? Yeah. Do you have carpenters, plumbers, electricians? Because I don't want government paying for this. I want government out of this. Number one, I'm an anti-federalist and minimal state government, and I totally believe in local control of government. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, I'll help you get the electronics so that you have a primary care doctor here. We have a screen there, and we can do consultations with specialists in your office. The people at Yerington have to drive to Reno or Vegas. The people in Elko, because they have a deficient hospital, have to drive to Salt Lake or 450 miles down to Vegas.
And there's only 2 VA hospitals in the entire state.
Well, VA is a whole different ballgame. Now you're talking about $65 billion the federal government is putting out. The Vegas VA is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Most VAs around the country, you're duplicating costs. So let me where I'm going with this. I ran one of the most cost-efficient trauma centers in the United States. We're wasting money like crazy in healthcare. We're wasting money in the VA system. The VA system doesn't have the capability of taking care of a lot of these more difficult problems. What do? They ship them to private docs.
Well, they just had the capability of the VA, Southern Nevada, of accepting ambulance. Before they didn't for years.
I understand.
When they built it. But a lot of ambulance drivers don't want to go there.
Of course, because the quality. Why should our vets? See, here's part of the problem.
You said quality. You're saying that the VA is limited as far as their care for veterans?
They have limitations and they have quality, not necessarily the one here. What I understand from the vets that I know that have gone to, have you ever interviewed Bill Hochstetter?
Yes.
Okay, so Bill's a vet. Bill gets his. So Bill and I have had these discussions, but Bill has a ophthalmologic problem, eye problem. Mm-hmm. So he's sent out to a private physician. So he's getting really good care. Mm-hmm. Okay. And anybody who gets farmed out for specialty gets the same care as anybody.
Farm me out.
Yeah. The problem here is we're spending a lot of money with duplication, and I've worked in the VAs for years. Omaha, Lincoln, San Diego, other ones around the country. There are some good ones, and there are mainly average. And when we look at efficiency of care and quality of care and economics of care, we have to look at it across the board. Mm-hmm. We don't have that even in the private sector in Nevada. Access here, wait. But a vet should be able to go in the hospital, see a primary care doctor, and here's one of the big things. They should get mental health. Mm-hmm. We have a mental health problem across this country that's pathetic. And in this state, we've got nothing. Now, here's the challenge to all of the people out there who espouse to being philanthropists. I challenge the Tesla organization. I challenge the casinos. Put money up and give us a mental health facility in the north and in the south. And I challenge the legal people. Give us more than a 48-hour hold for a bipolar or schizophrenic patient so we can stabilize them on meds. We need hospitals that treat PTSD, real problem in the vets, real problem with the vets on the street.
TBI.
TBI, sure. Traumatic brain injury, big problem. And as we know, I'm sure you know, you're very active, and we don't have an exit program for the vets.
No.
Air Force has a little bit of one.
And they don't go combat, at least not on the ground.
Right. So here we're sitting here, and I hear this veteran stuff. I've been immersed in this for years. I was medical director for and still am for the SEAL team for parachuting. Mm-hmm. And so what we need is a mental health facility where you can enter it, you can get care, you can get stabilized on the right drugs, you can get drug rehab in the same institution, because that's a mental illness. Mm-hmm. Then in the same institution, you can get job rehab, so that when you're ready to leave, mm-hmm. you have some skills, and then we connect with the community in a mentorship program that if it was you, this business will take you on. We get this person off government subsidy, we get them employed, and we give them a life. You got to think about I work with the medics, the kids. These kids that I worked with mainly were from Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, a lot of Southern. These kids are young 18-year-olds. A lot of them have had trouble, marginally educated. And then they're put into the military, and it's all, reinforced discipline. Okay? Mm-hmm. But that's not who they were. And they go through the military, and then they come out, and they have problems in adjusting to society. What have we done? Zero.
You know what? It amazes me, Dr. Simon, how, especially the Marine Corps, how the Marine Corps could take a human off the streets, 17 years, 18 years on mm-hmm. the streets, and in 3 months, totally break them down mm-hmm. and build them up to the way they want them to be, as far as being a combat Marine. But yet, there is no opposite direction, getting out of the military into civilian life after you've done 2, 3, 4, 5. Some, I've heard one guy did 9 tours in Afghanistan, Iraq, and then come out, and then you expect them to kind of blend in with everybody else. How so?
I'm a relentless, self-contained
That's
son
not
of...
a realist.
No, but I'll tell you, I am a tough, relentless son of a bitch at times. This is the only thing that you'll probably talk to me about that I'll get emotional about. I've seen these kids and these men over and over and over and over, and I go out in society and I hear all this, we're for the veterans and we're going to take care of the veterans. And let me tell you,
lip service.
Total. If you can't have an exit program mm-hmm. for these humans who came out, they're completely lost. Why are they on the street? TBI, PTSD, drugs, alcohol, because of maladjustment to society.
Violence.
Sex. Sure. You can...
Or isolation.
You can give the United States of America and the state of Nevada an F for really caring for the veterans.
Mm-hmm. Then they lock them up.
Sure. I hear all these people talk. This has been fun, 10 months campaigning.
There's about 165,000 veterans in state and federal prisons today.
Sure. I listen to all these candidates pander about the vets. Mm-hmm. I don't hear one of them knowing what's going on. And they don't have any solutions because they don't know what the problem is. We're talking about what the real problem
What's the
is.
solution? And what's the solution to bring medical care to rural Nevada?
Well, we bring independent physicians, like I said. We take a building, we let the community build it so they own it. You have to fund these people to keep them to stay. We increase the number of medical school spots we get.
And where would you get the money from?
For this, the community does it. It doesn't come from government.
So from the private sector.
Private sector. Private sector builds the mental health facilities. We need to shame people into doing real philanthropy. Don't give us lip service.
So how are you going to convince somebody like an executive for, let's say, the Wynn?
I'd sit down with Steve Wynn. I know who Steve Wynn is.
Well, he's not there anymore.
I know, but Steve Wynn's still around.
True.
Does Steve Wynn want to change his legacy? This is what I'll talk to people about.
And he's going blind, so you probably want to put Braille somewhere. Is there a Braille center in the state
Not that I know of.
for the blind? Because I heard they usually have to go to Arizona to get care.
Yeah, not that I know of.
And how would you bring that here?
Well, you can't bring everything to start with. The first and foremost problem here is mental health.
Well, so on mental health though, because this is something that, and I agree with you, but I've heard this brought up so many times, and like I'm not disagreeing with you, but mental health is something that it's so hard to diagnose on an individual basis. So like, how do you actually go about bringing actual mental health? Because I'm mentally unhealthy on some level, right? Steve might be mentally unhealthy on some level.
Steve is. I think I've diagnosed that already.
Well, I know I am for sure. I'm not speaking for Steve.
Well,
I'm just
1 in 4 human beings in the country.
But I'm just saying,
25% of the population.
But I'm just saying, no. All joking aside, I'm very serious about this because you talked about politicians and stuff giving lip service to veterans, and I 100% agree. My biggest pet peeve is when they say, well, of course we support the troops, we support the veterans, we don't support the mission. That's BS. I hate that. That's like a post-Vietnam, everybody has to say they love the troops and the veterans.
And then when they come out, they call them baby killers.
Yeah. But then when you say we don't have mental health facilities and we're terrible at it, but like, how do we go about that though? Because it's such an individual thing. Like,
well, how do you go about diagnosing cancer? You have a clinician look at you.
right.
You evaluate. Depression is a huge problem.
Right, but how do you diagnose depression? And
Well, you have clinicians that I can diagnose depression
Yeah.
even as a surgeon.
Yeah.
I've diagnosed people who appeared to be bipolar.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because that's something that when I bring that issue up, and obviously I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor by any means. I've seen a few, but anytime I bring that up about mental health, like, well, it's just too complicated. It's more complicated than you think it is.
Well, it's a complicated. Listen, you're not going to cure schizophrenics and bipolars.
Right.
But are you just going to ignore the problem and let them end up on the streets? Part of the problem with these folks is that you can't get them stabilized on medication. There's not funding to do it. There's not places to do it. A schizophrenic patient has a dysreality a lot of the time, but they have normal periods of time.
Yeah.
Think about being locked up in this mind.
In your own head.
Yeah. Are we really as compassionate as we say we are? And this isn't going to take, it's going to take innovative thought, but it's going to take someone out there. Number one, you need a leader, and you need somebody who can communicate. I think you guys understand what I'm saying 100% with the vets and the mentally ill. Okay, so the message is there. Now, what's the solution? The private sector needs to get involved. The more government we get involved, look at how much money is wasted. No, this is a private sector issue. And you go out and you sell to the billionaires in every state, but I only have to worry about this state, and go, look, here is a great legacy, be part of it, okay? Get other organizations involved, be part of it. Every single family, I can guarantee you, will identify someone in their family or a close friend with some type of mental illness. Now, when the COVID thing was going on in my restaurant, I basically told the governor, I'm going to be the only restaurant open. I called the sheriff. I said, I'm opening against civil disobedience. You're going to have to decide what to do, but I don't want you to find out the back door. I'm calling you, telling you I'm opening, and I'm done. And all the proceeds that we do is going to be for mental illness. So I was sending a message to my community. I wasn't running for governor back then. I had no intention.
It was here?
It's in Minden.
Oh.
I have an Italian restaurant in Minden.
Oh, okay.
So, you know what? I actively do things to lead and send a message. And we can do this. But you have to have somebody who has the energy, the leadership, and the time to promote multiple different things that are problems. This is a major problem in this state. Healthcare, we're 50th in retention of nurses.
What about the medical malpractice? Do you think there should be a cap on that?
Medical malpractice isn't as big of an issue as people make it out to be.
Because they were saying that's why doctors were fleeing. Is that true?
No, that you know, this is the excuse they make. Medical malpractice works two ways. It puts some restraints on, you know, people just doing willy-nilly what they want. You go back to a study out of New York, 1/3 of back surgeries back in about 15 years ago, people were operating on people that didn't need the surgery.
Yeah.
Okay, there needs to be some constraint. Listen, we're human beings, Steve. We're human beings. It doesn't make any difference.
Was it
if I'm a doctor.
intentional or was
It was intentional to make money.
Jesus.
One of my colleagues that I worked with, who I actually
They
helped
should
to
be in
drop,
prison for that.
he's in prison. He got caught. They do deals with implants, what you put in the back, the screws and there's deals done between companies, hospitals. Come on, corruption is everywhere. It doesn't make any difference. Hippocratic oath, come on. You're a human being. Everybody's greedy. So somebody has to oversee this. Mm-hmm. Somebody has to know what works. Look at education. Let's just go to the next step here. We can talk healthcare all day long, and we could spend an hour on that. We could spend an hour on education. I'll be glad to come back after the election. We can go through these. Look at the greed in education. People say, where are you going to get the money? Well, I'll tell you what, we don't need all the money we got in education. We're 50th out of 50. And if you include Puerto Rico, we're 51st. How's that working? It's not about money. You need remedial training of kids. You need remedial training of teachers who are below the level. You need leadership. You need superintendents to stop getting teachers teaching ideology. 40% of kids who come out of our high schools in this state can't work in basic industry. 40%. That comes out of UNLV, UNR. The Pell Grant students, where you and me, we put money into their hands to get an education. 30% of them can't take college courses until they get remedial courses, which have to be paid for. Okay, I'm calling them out. I've been at 18 school board meetings. I testified against the regents about vaccinating teenagers in college. How dare you? I called out their expert. I'm a medical legal expert. He isn't. He's done one paper on esophageal outpatient complications. Really? You're a COVID expert? And I did it publicly. It's on tape.
Dr. Fauci.
No. Well, Fauci's a criminal. Okay, we got a gallows for him, and it's going to be a slow hang.
Slow hang.
Slow.
Aren't you a surgeon? Aren't you supposed to be like breathing life into people?
Not that dude. He's killed more people than probably half the German.
Wow.
He's responsible for this. This was gain of function. There's no doubt about it. We better be very cognizant in this state. We better have preparation for the next bioterrorism. The Chinese, and the Chinese are wonderful people. When we talk about China, no, it's the CCP. It's a communist. There are a lot of people over in China who are basically under wraps of the communists. This was all intended. This is bioterrorism. And you think they're going to stop. They're not. So are we going to be prepared as a state with a bioterrorism, not pandemic, but epidemic medical board? If I'm there, you better believe it. We'll work on it from the very get-go. Mm-hmm. What will we do? How will we handle this? What will the hospitals be prepared for? We're not going to be shutting down businesses. We might shut down the border. You remember when this came out, what did China do? They shut down transportation in their country, except for international. They sent it out on purpose. It's all fact. So they sent this virus out, gain of function. There are biolabs all over the world. Biolabs in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, this is all intended. What did it do? It hurt Nevada hugely, economically. It hurt small business hugely. And you had a leader, and I'm not going to sit here and do supposition. I don't know what was in his head, and I don't know why he made the decisions he did, but he made critically poor decisions. You don't shut down small business when you let the big boxes go. I'm going to Walmart buying for my restaurant, and I can only do takeout? Really? And you sit here and go, okay, that's not leadership. And you're sitting there and you're shutting down the state economically, and you don't know what you're doing. He had no idea what he's doing. And nobody in the government knew what they were doing. And we better be prepared for the next thing. Mm-hmm. Then you look at it and you sit here and go, oh, is there any relationship with the Ukraine, Russia, and China, and this? So yeah, there is. So what are we getting hit with? We have an economic problem in Nevada right now, secondary to this. Bill Gates owns the largest amount of farmland in the United States. We get our fertilizer from Poland and Russia. Russia and China have an agreement. Now what do we have a problem with? We've got a problem with gas and oil.
I think you're running for Congress, are you?
No, I don't want anything to do with Washington. It's a cesspool of crap. I can protect us by knowing the world stage. We are an international state, in a sense. Mm-hmm. We have people come here. We need to get our hospitality in place. Mm-hmm. We've got a problem with homeless, violence, gangs. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to come here. They're going to go to Macau. The Asian population that used to come here, so that hurts us economically. We have so many issues to address. And when this pandemic came in, everything was done politically, not in the best interest of this state. You need a governor who's a leader, who understands all the dynamics, not only of the state, but the country and the world. And then how do we adjust our lives? So, you have to look at all these. We got to fix our education, okay?
So how you different from your opponents? Because there's
25 now,
including you, 25.
I don't think anybody has the background, training, experience I have in healthcare. Obviously, education.
Okay, well,
business.
No, I'm just going to sum it up this way. I
wanted to hear more. Education and what else?
Business. Sure.
That's how you differ.
The depth of what I know, what I do every day to learn everything that I can. You know, I'm a human being who gets educated constantly. I'm connected with people who understand China. I'm connected with people who understand the Soviet Union. I'm connected with people who understand national health care. I'm connected with people in business. And what I've always done is I find people who are smarter than I am so that I can raise the level of what I am up.
Some people get intimidated by that.
Oh no, that's the wrong thing to do. You find people who can raise up your intellectual level, raise up your heart level, raise up your skills.
And that's a problem with some men. They're intimidated by a strong woman that's independent, that's self-sufficient.
100%.
And I'm glad I'm not one of those type of guys, because I love that in a woman. Well, and I love that in my friends too, that they're independent, that they're strong,
Sure.
and they're intelligent.
So who are the women in my life? My mother was a volunteer. She wasn't into all. My sister, major leader in education. My wife, major leader in education. My best friend in residency was the chief medical officer of the Indian Public Health Service, Susan Carroll. Now she's at CMS. She's one of 2 surgeons. The gal that I was in medical school she actually worked for pharma, nurse, excellent. All people, my group that I brought in.
So that's just how you differ.
Well, you know what? I bring people, I differ in, I think, a base of knowledge, multidisciplinary, leadership. You ask me a question, I'm going to give you solutions. I'm not going to say, I'm going to make it better. Or no, there are solutions to all these issues. Before I got in this campaign, I looked at what the key issues were in this state.
What are they?
Healthcare, education, safe cities, violence, drugs. Now this comes from China too, fentanyl, oxycodone, but we have a distribution center for a cartel out of Mexico that comes to Vegas. What's the sheriff doing about it? Here's a guy who went to Mesquite to the Chamber of Commerce and said, we need to get illegal guns off the street. Really? What have you been doing the last 8 years? And I went at him. Really? And you're the guy who wants to limit CCW? We don't even need CCWs. We're protected by the Constitution. I should be able to have a gun if I want a gun. And I should be able to put it right here if I want to. And guns in the hands of people with CCWs. I never met a gang member, and I took care of hundreds of gang members who had weapons. Never met a gang member that had a CCW. So, Joe, what'd you do about those folks? We got to get those people off the street, which means we get drugs off the street, which we got to clean up the strip, which helps the economy, because we can bring more people in here. And I'll tell you the other thing, that I'm probably the only candidate who wants a moratorium on development. How's the traffic here? I've been living here for 2 months. This is pathetic. And who makes the money on the development? Developers.
So you said you've been here 2 months?
2 months. I've lived down here for 2 months.
Here in Southern Nevada?
Las Vegas.
You were up in Northern
I live in
Nevada.
Gardnerville.
Gotcha.
But I've been down here for 2 straight months fighting the traffic like everybody else, looking at Henderson and Summerlin and Las Vegas are almost all one. This is little Los Angeles. What for? And then I went to the Las Vegas Economic Summit, and everybody goes, we need more businesses. We need to compete with Utah and Arizona. What for? Because you're going to give them a tax rebate. Mm-hmm. It doesn't bring any tax money. Well, we're bringing better jobs. No, you're creating better jobs for the people in Northern California and Washington to come in here. And then you got to do housing. And then you and I have to pay for infrastructure, more highways. No, that's not working. We got gold and silver, 5% of the world. Let's increase that to 7%. Let's help our mining. Let's decrease their taxes. Let's help small business in this state. We've got plenty of diverse economy. We need to fix our hospitality downtown and on the Strip by cleaning up the problems. Nobody does that. All of these problems have solutions, but it's not more development. I haven't met anybody down here in Las Vegas, Boulder City, Summerlin, McDonald Ranch, downtown Las Vegas, that tells me they really like all this development and sprawling of the community and the traffic. And what do we get out of it? Nothing. Politicians are magical at manipulating us. And then, if you really want voter integrity, we produce a holiday. It's a holiday. We have holidays for everything else. We have a holiday. It's called Memorial Day and Veterans Day for our people that preserve the right to vote. We don't need all this stuff they're doing, mail-in balloting. And then there's voting integrity. If the general public wants to continue to vote for people who get their money from special interest, this ain't changing. That's what's different about me. Yeah, I put a bunch of my own money in this. People are donating to me, but I'm not going to pander, Steve. I'm not pandering to anybody. I can fix these problems. The voters in Nevada want me. I'll get the job done and I'll work really hard. Do I need to do this? No, yeah, I'm economically fine. I skied 40 days last year. I've skied 2 this year. I'm committed to this. I'm committed to every Nevadan. Everybody should have an opportunity. But when you don't educate your population and you go look and they go, well, the parents got to do more. Those same parents came from the same crappy education. This has been here for 2 generations. It's not Sisolak's fault alone. It's been there 3.5 years. It's all these other politicians who have sat there who now want to run for governor and tell you and me that education needs to be fixed. Where the hell were they? Lip service. That's not Fred Simon.
Jim?
Oh, I'm good.
You know, but really, look, when I really urge people, that the electorate out there, do they really care about changing things? And if you want to change things, then you have to change what you do. I mean, I'm not here to beat on Lombardo, but he walks in this race on day one with $3.5 million. Number one group is developers and then the casinos. And what does he say at the same meeting? And he said it in Reno. We want affordable housing. Whoa, wait a minute. That's government subsidized. That's yours, and my money. No. The reason he wants affordable housing is he's got developers' money. This is what all this development's about. Money. It's not about the welfare of this state. Mm-hmm. It's not. There's no land plan. They said this at the Las Vegas Economic. There's no land plan. There's no energy plan. And there's no water plan. But we're going to work it out. You do that before you continue to develop.
Well, Dr. Simon.
Yes, sir.
I don't think we had let a candidate just talk as much as we have with you today.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, no, and one of the reasons why, and Steve knows this, typically I do ask more questions, but and I watch after every show to see how bad I did.
And well, tell me how bad I did too. Constructive criticism is always good.
But one of the things that, especially with the governor's race, I want to make sure that it's not about me. It's about educating the public so they get a good sense of who you are and what your priorities are. Because, I could sit here and pound away about questions all day long and you could give platitudes about stuff. but that's not really educating people, right?
I agree.
So I want people to get to know who Fred Simon is. And that's why I didn't ask a lot of questions. I really appreciate you coming on. And I really like the fact that, like the way you set your priorities though. Because if you don't have your health, number one.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
You know, if you don't have your health, what do you have? And then if you're not educating the public, and then what do you have? And then I think it all kind of trickles up from there. So, and I like what you said about development too, because that's the thing that always cracks me up. Everybody's like, oh, we need more development. Well, the roads are jammed up. We're running out of water.
You know, I'm not against money. I like money.
Well, yeah, I mean,
okay, money's fine.
Money.
And I always tell my kids that I mentor in my restaurant. Rule number 1, make money. Rule number 2, dysfunction's your friend. That's why I'm running. There's so much dysfunction. Here I am. You know, I can do this because these guys.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're not really free in America unless you have a reasonable financial background. Okay? And I want every Nevadan to be educated and make a reasonable amount of money so that they can, you know, feel independent and not feel frustrated, depressed. You know, empowerment, not entitlement. And everything that I am going to do, everything that we've talked about is empowering people, not entitle them, not giving them money free. Get off the dole. Get in the game, and you'll feel better about yourself.
Well, Mr. Simon, did we cover everything that you wanted to get out?
Well, I think this has been a wonderful opportunity to be talking to the public and you guys. And is there anything else you'd like to know?
I think we're pretty covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very interested, intrigued, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on out there. There's a lot facing our state right now. There's a lot facing this country. You know, the way I put it is, I think we bottomed, and now people are ready to get engaged.
Yeah.
I've been to 18 communities. We're not blue, we're red. There's a lot of frustrated constitutional conservatives out there.
Yeah.
There are a lot that weren't engaged. Even in the last election with Trump, they didn't vote. We've got to get the voters out. We'll win this.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the program. If you could look into the camera, and Mark's going to zoom in on you, and you tell folks why they need to take you out of the primary, put you in the general, and your point of contact, please.
Well, I'm at simonforgovnv.com, and let me tell you, I'm in this race, and it's a battle. If you can send $25, it would help. We're going to have a media battle against some of these folks. I'm ready to do the job. I can do the job. I have plenty of energy and passion. And you all have told me what needs to be done because I've been canvassing and been to 135 events. So simonforgovnv.com, and I really appreciate both of you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Folks, that's Fred Simon. He's a gubernatorial candidate for governor of this great state of Nevada. We encourage everyone to educate yourself on these candidates running for governor. There are about 25 candidates running for governor. So do your homework, do your research. You know, don't go by the name that you recognize. Go by something that you actually investigated and know and have knowledge about each candidate before you go to the voting booth, and then make an educated decision on who you'd like to see running this great state of Nevada. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas of Veterans in Politics. Until next time.